siblings consider using their fame for something good. And Kim does explain to them why she does what she does. And she works with the organization Everytown, which
Bloomberg.
The Michael Bloomberg
founded
this.
Gun control.
And she set up lunches with gun violence victims, and she told Chloe and Kendall that they would really love meeting her sisters, because they really appreciate people like them speaking out. And by that she means their celebrity. And the only thing I can figure out their celebrity is for just having cameras follow them around and filming what they do day in and day out. And Kim also goes on to explain to the camera, I've been meeting with Everytown, an organization that's fighting to change all the gun control laws. There's so many loopholes in the system, and I just really feel passionately how our gun control laws have to change. Chloe was definitely getting on board for joining the organization, but Kendall, who is only 21 years old, paused and says she is fearful. And she says, I do want to do this, and I want to be a part of it, but it makes me nervous, like what people are going to think of it. You don't know who's actually going to be for it and who's not. It's kind of difficult because I know we are public figures, and seeing how controversial it could be to speak out about something you're passionate about. And she goes on to say she does not want the attention of someone not agreeing with what she's saying to take away from the fact that there are actual gun issues that need to be handled. So it looks like there's not really power play, but Kim is trying to get her family on board, and she hasn't totally convinced the younger sibling about it.
Interesting, because it sounds like the younger sister might have a little more sense than Kim does, doesn't it?
It does, and of course, this was all recorded prior to Kim being a victim of robbery at gunpoint herself, because since that incident, Kim really hasn't spoken out a whole lot about it. So it's just it's going to be interesting in the news to see if her position changes, or if she remains steadfast about demanding gun control.
Be interesting if she decides to start carrying a gun herself after being a victim of it, huh?
Exactly.
Interesting.
And I have to point out, too, that not everyone likes the Kardashians, but they really do have a huge following. So we have to mention and bring to the attention that what the other side is talking about.
Yeah, know your enemy, basically, is what you're saying.
Yes.
Okay, my next story on firearms in the news comes to us from the firearmsblog.com, and the headline is Brownells now selling guns online.
Wait. Selling guns online?
Yep.
That's illegal.
That's what anti-gunners would have us think, isn't it?
Well, tell us more.
Okay. Brownells has been a trusted source for gunsmithing supplies and gun parts for more recently ammunition, but they've been serving the shooting community for over 75 years. And earlier this year, they dipped their toes into the gun market when they opened a 7,000 square foot retail store in Grinnell, Iowa, which sold guns alongside the gun parts and accessories that they sell online. And when the store was announced, we should have probably predicted that they were getting ready to sell guns online. And today they launched the Brownells.com/guns, which has an incredible amount of firearms listed for sale. There's about 1,337 handgun models, 1,513 rifle models, and about 688 shotgun models that you can now buy online.
Okay, so can you clarify for our listeners? Some may be anti-gun who are tuning in to listen to us. Some may be new to the gun world. But can you go through a little bit and explain how the online purchases are actually going to be made?
Right. If you're new to guns, or maybe you're an anti-gun person who just stumbled on this podcast, You may have heard that, the online loophole. Well, here's a little newsflash. There is no online loophole. When you go online and you order a gun, it does not get shipped to your front door. It gets shipped to a gun shop somewhere near you. You can designate where it gets shipped to. When it gets shipped to your local gun shop, you have to go there to pick the gun up. But before you can pick it up, you have to have the background check conducted by that gun shop. And here in Florida, usually they charge about $5 for that. And once you're cleared for the purchase, and only then, is when they release the gun to you.
So there really is no online shopping from the company to your door.
Nope, can't order it to the door. Of course, that doesn't apply to air guns. ATF doesn't, designate air guns as firearms, so you can have those shipped to you, but they're, very low power.
I have another firearms in the news story. This was reported on gun.com, but this is following along with what has been happening politically this week. Since we're in Florida, this really does mean a lot to us, because one of the powerful South Florida state senators who repeatedly sidelined popular gun rights legislation lost his seat on Tuesday. And it opened the door for these bills to be reintroduced for campus carry and open carry in the Sunshine State. Florida State Senator Miguel Diaz de la Portilla, who is a Republican from Miami, chairs the Senate Criminal Justice Committee, and in 2015 he refused to hold hearings on a bill to allow legal concealed carry on public colleges and universities. He also was responsible for derailing an emergency concealed carry bill the year before, and in 2016, he was key in killing bills on campus carry and open carry again, and he even refused to meet with advocates. And what's very interesting about his campaign is that the organization Everytown, which was founded by Michael Bloomberg, they poured $85,000 into his ad campaign. And the person who won the election was State Representative Jose Javier Rodriguez, who is a Democrat. So just because De La Portilla was a Republican does not necessarily mean that he was for guns.
Obviously not.
Because obviously he was an anti-gun Republican. And that does happen. And hopefully Mr. Rodriguez will do a better job in the state Senate.
That's another great example of, gun owners taking back our political leaders and putting in people who will support our gun rights. Okay, let's move on to our defensive gun use segment.
Go ahead. Make my day.
6:45 shots fired at my location.
And now, defensive gun uses from around the world and around the block.
Okay, my first story for the defensive gun use comes to us from bearingarms.com, and the headline is, a 73-year-old outdraws and kills teen thugs in St. Louis.
They didn't see that one coming.
So this happened in St. Louis. The story reads that police identified two men who were fatally shot by a homeowner they were allegedly attempting to rob. Jonathan Warren, 18, and Lonnie Middlebrook, 20, were shot and killed by the homeowner. Police said that Warren and Middlebrook entered the homeowner's detached garage and attempted to rob him just before 4 p.m., and one of the suspects held a gun to the 73-year-old homeowner's head and demanded that he back up. Police said the 73-year-old then grabbed his own gun and, fearing for his safety, fired it at the suspects. Police said that the homeowner fired in an act of self-defense and killed both suspects. Suspects' guns and the owner's gun was found at the scene. According to the police, the guns recovered from Warren was reportedly stolen on October the 30th by Florissant Police Department. So, a bad guy already had a stolen gun in his possession. The article goes on to say it takes a hard man to look down the barrel of two guns and decide, you know what? I've got you. But that's apparently just what happened. The 73-year-old drew his gun and dispatched the teens with about 5 shots or less, according to people in the area that heard the shots. Accounts suggest that the criminals took solid hits and didn't even get out of the garage. They didn't even make it out of the garage. And it's unclear if the criminals even managed to get a shot off. So our gray-haired warrior emerged from the encounter without a scratch and is unlikely to face any charges in what authorities seem to regard as a clear-cut case of self-defense.
4:00 in the afternoon.
That just goes to show it doesn't matter what time of the day it is or time of the night. You always got to be prepared.
And you also, the story also shows that you need to be prepared to have your firearm either on you or within a couple of steps, because you never know what's going to happen.
Exactly.
My defensive gun use also includes an elderly person. And the morningcall.com reports on this. And this occurred in Uniontown, Pennsylvania. And the elderly Pennsylvania man shot and killed a masked man who broke into his home and demanded money. The 81-year-old Uniontown resident awoke at about 1:30 a.m. Friday to find a man in a skull mask standing over him. After a struggle, the resident fired a shot, hitting the intruder in the lower torso. The police found Franklin Shrout, 40, of Morgantown, West Virginia, in a neighboring yard. The resident himself had minor injuries but declined medical care. The police said that the older man was remorseful and shook up, and it didn't appear he had intended to kill the intruder, but his focus was on protecting his elderly sister, who also lives in the house. The story doesn't really identify whose gun was used in the shooting. I don't know if it was the intruder's or the 81-year-old's firearm, but obviously there was a scuffle, and the 81-year-old protected himself and his elderly sister.
Interesting. Both of our stories, mine was 73-year-olds, and your almost victim was, what was he,
81 years old. Yes.
That just goes to show you don't mess with old people.
Get off my lawn.
Old people have seen a lot during their lifetime, and they don't take no crap, man. They'll flat out shoot you. And good for them for protecting themselves and taking that initiative. That's awesome. Okay, let's move on to our next segment. What's in your range bag?
Hey baby, it's time to talk about the hot, sexy new guns, holsters, ammo, gadgets, and gear from the firearm marketplace. So come on baby, let me take a peek. What's inside your range bag?
Okay, my what's in your range bag item today is called the Mega Boom System. That's MEGABOOM system.
This is like a targeting system that explodes?
Yes, it is. Good guess.
Well, tell me more.
Okay, punching holes in paper, that's fine if you're training, but it can get a little bit boring. That's why reactive targets are so much fun, especially if you live on some property or you go shooting on some property where you're not limited in the types of targets that you can shoot at. And that's why steel targets are popular. You got that response, that ding when you hit them. And there's also oddly shaped targets that kind of resemble dog toys that bounce and roll around the ground as you shoot them, usually like with a rimfire cartridge, 22 long rifle. So this product, the Mega Boom system, is in the way too much fun category. They're called Mega Boom targets, and you want to think about these target as bases for plastic bottles. That's what they are. They kind of screw on to a 2-liter plastic bottle. Then the base